at that point, there was no rules and regulations to this shit. You know, we didn't know who's going to be that next thing, that next underground dancer. It's something that we all have within ourselves, but you can tell when you see a dancer when they have that thing, you know, especially coming from the club nightlife. And he felt it was me, you know, and all I know is for me is that I always loved dancing. I put my heart and soul into it, and I sacrificed a lot to become this dancer and know every milk and cranny about it. So for me, years later, now I say I am the gatekeeper of New York City's nightlife, representing all styles of the club and nightlife and dance scene.
Today is January 29th, 2022. Who are we speaking with?
How you doing out there? My name is Conrad Rochester, representing Lower East Side, born in Brooklyn. How you guys doing?
So, what does the Loft mean to you?
What the Loft means to me, it was a beautiful space. It's one of the longest parties that's still going on, representing New York City's club nightlife. For me, David Mancuso, and what he brought to the floor was that it was a home where you can escape the craziness that went on in New York City's in those times, in the early 80s, mid 70s. It was home. It was heaven, you know, especially when New York was very crazy. You know, you was lucky to be alive and see another day. It was a haven where you can go and be safe, get a free meal, listen to beautiful music. The OMs captivated you, you know. For me, it was everything. It cultivated my dance culture and styles, and I learned a lot of different music that I hated, you know, country, you know, coming from the hood, you know, you ain't used to hearing all of that opera shit, you know what I'm saying? And, you know, so at the end of the day, I really appreciated that music later when I realized how my body moved and how I interacted and the melodies and the poems, man. And his whole mission in travel, taking the soul out of the body and traveling, you know, with the universe, man, yo, that shit was addictive. That was a high in itself, on top of being on all type of drugs. But for the most part, man, that was everything, man. You know, the difference between that and the garage, there was a big difference. But
Tell people, what's the difference between that and the garage?
the difference between that and the garage was, you know, you had an original sound system. The Loft sound system was made, and the whole process was that when you're traveling and he's taking you on this journey, the OMs, you had wattages, like light bulb wattages that were huge, that carried these currents that were specifically calibrated, you know, mathematically for room to do his mission. And, you know, you're talking about the guy that invented the tweeter. So, you know, at the end of the day, this man had a significant part on why we party still today. And the difference was the sound. The sound, when he put that needle to the record, it didn't matter if it was opera, country, funk, Afro, whatever, or acoustic sound bands, you felt that like if it was a live concert. Okay. And that's why the Loft sound system was so special. They still use it to this day because, you know, he was a brilliant man. He thought he saw things beforehand. You know, we don't last forever. So he built a family that can continue on his journey, which makes the Loft very special. And you have a team of people because they bought into his product. They still do it today. Now with the Paradise Garage, the difference is, you know, you have an analog sound system, and the analog sound system deals with the low end kick sound, which the 808 was birthed off of, in the sense representing Chicago house when we're talking about that. But the beauty of the New York Sound System Club, that was everything for us. You know, when you went to park jams, church jams, wherever there was a jam in a community center, school centers, you know, we would come down and help and just set up these sound systems And then the garage, man, you know, you're talking about a sound system that had hydraulic beams that went with the low end sound system. So even if you wasn't a dancer, you didn't need to dance. You just stood in a certain area and the whole fucking floor would move because they didn't have air ducts like a ventilation system, you know, at that time. So they used the low end sound system. That's how big that shit was with these beams to create an air duct flow. So whenever it got too hot or too cold, the exhaust from these amps that were getting all fucking building up this heat, they would need it to go somewhere. So they created that as an air duct system, bro. So we used to stand in front of this wall that would just open up, which was these vents. And yo, it was like you felt like you was getting hit by a summer breeze or on the side of a mountain and you feel the gust of wind and yo, you would dry up instantly, you know. So that's the type of difference we're talking about of experiences here. And then you had a club like the Paradise Garage that opened up, the roof opened up. So when you heard it's gonna rain, motherfucker, you feeling that shit. Shit is raining, you know what I'm saying? And you're like tripping balls and you're like, oh shit, you know, like what the hell's going on, you know? You know, when the doves cry and you're seeing birds fucking flying to the club and you're like, whoa, you know? So the difference of experiences were tremendous, but they both were critical in our future, you know, in the past of this culture, magnetic of it all. It was just unbelievable, man, you know. And Larry, the difference between Larry and David was, you know, for me, you know, you had to learn how to, when you went to the Loft, you had to learn how to appreciate the song from beginning to end. There was no mixing, you know, and that's why a lot of times, and I said, I hate it, I was like, fuck, I gotta weigh this shit out. You had to wait for your part, you know what I'm saying? You know, so there was no ifs, ands, buts about that shit. But with Larry, his shit was, you know, it was like going to a studio, you know, you paying whatever, you're getting your meal there. Your meal was donuts, cookies, salad. You had pasta. And this came at different times. You know, there was a certain time they would serve this food and it went on all the way to the next day. But with Larry, man, he was a maestro in his own self where he would look around the crowd and he'd say, I'm going to make that person do a backflip. It didn't matter if you knew how to do the backflip. You look later on in the fucking club, that fucking person's doing a backflip. You know what I'm saying? So it was intense, like the type of orchestra and that, like, yo, I'm gonna make you do this, I'm gonna make you move this way, and he made you move that way, you know. But his whole thing was he would create these mixes, you know, with these different songs that he would have creations of what was going on, and throughout the whole entire day, if you got there from the minute he started, you would get the whole thing, all the fuck ups, all the bumpy mixes, all the scratches, everything, right? And he would continue doing this. And maybe some songs he would take out and other songs he would put in. But by the peak of the motherfucking time of that club, yo, 6 o'clock in the morning, oh, it was on and popping. He had that fucking whole calibrated mix in his mind mastered down, and then he would give it to you with all these other layers and filters. So it was just like a live fucking, you know, mix right there being done fresh just for you, you know, and you felt that, you knew that, and your body responded to that shit. And it was amazing, you know, because you had a mash pit of the gays, the strays, the trans, the binaries, all that shit before it was, you had it all in one room, you know, and it was catered to them. It wasn't catered to the straights. It wasn't catered to women at all. You know, you didn't matter if you was gay or not. It was just for the men that were gay only. That was their thing. Michael Brody's whole, you know, vision was that, you know, to create a place where they could just be themselves. And, you know, I say we because the cultures of Asian, Black, Hispanics, any other race was the delicacy of their world. You know what I'm saying? So, but unfortunately at that time, the vision wasn't clear because, you know, lawyers and doctors and FBI agents. People weren't going to reveal their secrets on that level. It was just too soon and people weren't ready for it. So the minority as us were the ones that made that club what it was. And then little by little, they started seeing it and seeing the vision and realizing, holy shit, we got something here. You know, you had women dress up like men, you know what I'm saying, to get in the fucking club. You had celebrities dressing up just to get in the fucking club, you know, and then that's when you had all the fag hags and all these other terms that came out of that. But the sound system, man, was beautiful. It was amazing, you know. And they both, for me, they were very important. You know, the garage was easier for me to get into because of what I was doing. I knew everybody in there, you know, I knew Noel, the dog guy. I ended up, thanks to my father, meeting Larry Levan, and we became personal friends. I already knew like Keith Haring and a bunch of celebrities, and I used to hang out a lot with him. And, you know, I was part of the 500 Club. And that was all, you know, I keep it real. I told the story a bunch of times. You know, I was selling drugs. I was selling a lot of drugs in the Lower East Side. So that was my ticket into these clubs. I didn't need a VIP. I didn't need membership. My VIP was the good drugs that I had. And you know, everybody wanted that. Everybody wanted the coke, the weed, the this, the that. And I was that dude, you know. And then Noel lived in the Lower East Side. So that was family, you know. We looked out for him, and, you know, he was a Latino too. So it was beautiful, man, you know, meeting Christina Visca and, you know, a bunch of my friends that I'm still connected, Benny Soto, all of them, you know. I got to see, I was very, very young in the game. And being young, you know, I also got to say, the person that shed a lot of light for my career, and this was also, you know, thanks to my brothers, you know, Rockwell Crew, Lower East Side. They were the beginning pillars of that. But the man, you know, God rest his soul, was Perry. You know, Perry was a badass dancer. He was a dude that when you went to the garage, I've never saw this before. And the guy saw me at a park jam in 134 Park in my old public school in the Lower East Side. And he told all the big drug dealers, yo, bring this nigga to the club on Friday. And he told me, yo, you see this energy you got right here that I'm seeing? Yo, you that dude, you the next dude. And I didn't get it. I was like, the fuck this nigga talking about? You know, like, this nigga's talking all this bugged out shit. So he's like, yo, keep that same energy. So I'm like, all right, I'm mad young. You know, I'm like fucking 13, 14 years old. And I get to this club. I get to the Paradise Garage, and I'm like, holy shit. What the fuck is this? You know, it's big. I'm going up this big ass giant ramp, you know. And I see somebody I knew, which was Noel, so I kind of felt safe. I'm like, okay, niggas ain't gonna jack me, you know what I'm saying? Because, you know, you hustling drugs, you don't know what the fuck is going on in New York City, right? Big ass room. You see AT&T, you see the Bell back then. It was called the Bell Building, whatever. And I'm like, yo, they do a club in here? Go up in the fucking thing. You make this right. You pay. You make the right. You see these bathroom co-eds. You see people changing. I'm like, oh, there's some freaky shit going on up in here, you know? You see the coat check to your left. You're like, yo, I see fucking Timmy Regisford before he became who he became. You know, he was he used to do the check, the door shit for your coat check. So you go to the coat check, you're like, oh shit, who this black dude with dreads? You know what I'm saying? Boom, go up in there, hang up your shit. And then, you know, back of my mind, you know, you take out all your goods because you don't trust that motherfucker. You don't trust the club itself. So, you know, my experience was like, wow, this is amazing. Okay. You see a hot room. It's got all this glass wall, them thick, remember those all square, thick glasses they used to put up as a wall? That was a room in itself, and it's all hot and intimate, and you got bags, bean bags, pillow bags, all this shit, people laying around. And then you hear this boom, boom, boom. You're hearing this low end sound. You're like, yo, where the fuck this shit's coming from? Next thing you know, you make another right. You walk through this little hall, like a ramp that goes down, then it goes back up, and it opens out. Total darkness. So I got there early. So I'm just like, yo, the fuck is this? And you're just like, you're hearing this sound and you're hearing these people cheer and they're on ecstasy. They're just losing themselves. And you're like, I'm like a little scared cat. Like, oh my God, what the fuck did I get myself into right now? Not even thinking of the possibilities. It's more like a little kid that lost his family. Like, yo, get me the fuck out of here. You know, of course, I was on, you know, little high, whatever. And it just it was a lot to absorb at that time. But then you get through the dance floor. And after you get through the dance floor, you go down into the round, you go back up, and then it opens out into this room, and it's like a big giant lounge. And I'm like, holy shit, okay. So after you hear the noise and you're like, you're just still captivated by that shit. You need to sit down and be like, all right, this shit is real up in here. You know what I'm saying? So I start eating the cookies. I start eating some donuts. I'm like, all right, get a grip. So I go, they say, oh, there's a movie room. Movie room? Fuck you mean a movie room? In a club? Yeah, exactly. I'm scratching my head like, what the fuck are you talking about? For fuck, oh, you get all of that for this? Back then it was like $15 to $20. And you fucking go in this room and yo, they got a movie. You can see what you can see on 40 Deuce, you can see right in that fucking club, bro. Big ass giant screen, you could chill with your honey. And then it's like, wow. So I'm like, okay, I start watching the movie, but then this is just too much for me. I'm like, I'm not used to this setting. You know, used to going to a movie. And the next thing you know, man, I see people walking through this hallway. There's a little door. And I'm like, yo, what the fuck is that over there? Like, yo, check this out. Go up them steps. So you go up the steps, you go up 2 long flights of steps, and you go through, you see this little hole, and you're like, should look like a little hole, but when you get up there, it's a doorway. Next thing you know, it opens out, bro. You're on the fucking rooftop.
Wow.
Outside, overlooking the fucking roof. You can see people dancing, bro. As like I said, when that shit says let the doves cry and the shit opens up, if you're outside, you can see the crowd and this heat of energy that's coming out through the fucking room. And you're like, yo, are you kidding me? And they got a fountain that works and people are just laying up. So I went around the summertime. So niggas is out there fucking butt ass naked, sunbathing, chilling. People are getting their groove on. It's like an open deck. You feel like you're at a beach, something like, you know, boardwalk or something like that. And the experience was fucking intense, bro, you know? And to me, that gave the nod in the sense of going to the paradise. It really was that, a paradise experience than the loft. And that was the beef, you know, the beef between the two was that, you know, niggas that went to the loft, they went to the loft and they wouldn't go to the paradise and the vice versa. But what it was hard to get in both clubs. And you had to be members, okay? And the creme de la creme of dancers that went to the loft was just different. You know, it was a different environment and it wasn't for everyone. Whereas the paradise, you know, if you moved or did certain things, you could probably get in there, but it was a little easier, I would say, even though they have very, very strict policies and rules to get in that club. But when you went into the loft, I don't give a fuck what you say. It was heaven, man. You know, and that was the difference between the two. You know, with what they had to offer in the sense. You know, and they were amazing. They were both of them were very addictive. And the reason why a lot of times I went to the loft because the loft was on Saturday, even though the Paradise Garage was on Friday and Saturday. The difference was that, you know, after years of them doing the party, Fridays, a lot of straight people went. But Larry really played better on Saturday because he played for the LGBTQ, you know, back then, which was just the LBGT, you know. So it was like you had to experience his set on a Saturday. I don't give a fuck what anybody will tell you. Saturday, Larry played. It was like no other. It wasn't like Friday. It was like, holy shit. It was a very big difference. And I was able to get that a few times. It was just rough because, you know, on Saturday, it was very, very gay. And, you know, that if you come from the hood or if you're not ready and you got all these motherfucking judgments and insecurities, bro, I'm telling you right now, you're gonna learn one way or the other. You know what I'm saying? Because you in their house. You know what I'm saying? And shit was real. I had some unfortunate experiences in there, and I had to check a few motherfuckers because again, I'm Lower East Side. I carry a pistol, and I ain't give a fuck. You keep that shit over there. You know what I'm saying? I know I'm in your house, but there was lines crossed. But at the same time, you get your little spankings. They'll give you a little warnings. Like Joey Lanos didn't fuck around and his partner, because they were head security there, and I knew them very well, and they knew my team. Perry, back to him. Perry was like, he was a dancer that when you went to the garage, people went there for that. A lot of times they didn't go for just Larry. They went there to see Perry. And Perry was that dude. He could do everything. And when I tell you everything, it's the first time in my life. He's one of my mentors as well, because I have many mentors. But that dude, he could do it all in movement. I don't give a fuck what you say. To be in a club that hosts over 10,000 people, to get to my point, was that at 6 o'clock in the morning, that's when the club and the party started, even though the doors opened at 10 p.m. So people will get up in there, the creme de la creme of that world will step in around 5:30, right? You had over 10,000 people in a big giant circle that would stop dancing. And they would make this big giant circle like the Indians do, passing around a big joint with every fucking drug in it. And they're just like a peace pipe offering. And if you smoked or if you didn't, it didn't matter. Just passing that shit to the next person and getting the aroma of that shit, you was high. I don't give a fuck. And this man would come in doing backflips, jump into the fucking circle, doing flips, in an Indian position off the flip, right onto the floor. And then all of a sudden he would dance and do the ceremony. It was like a ceremony. You would watch this man as you're smoking this big fat Cheech and Chong's joint. And he was the essence that set the tone in this fucking room, in the Paradise Garage. And Larry and him had like this understanding, and there was a ritual, and they did it every time. And yo, it was fucking amazing. That was the first time I realized that one person could actually captivate a room that way without you paying, in a sense, like a concert just to see a person. This is a thing of free of will. You're paying to just do you, where you gave him that respect. And it was something that was the norm there. And these are all the little rules and regulations of like a party, and after that, that changed my whole perspective. So when I went to the club, back to on, rewinding now where I started off with talking to you about this experience was for me, after I got through all of that and I'm in the lounge and I ate my cookies and I did the whole experience, I get back to the dance floor and Perry now is like, yo, man, you pissing me off. And I'm like, yo, what the fuck this nigga talking about? Like, I don't know you like that, you pissing me off. And he's like, yo, remember what I told you, keep that same energy. Everybody's here waiting for you. I already told everybody. And I'm like, everybody, like who? Who the fuck is everybody? Like, this is my first time in here. Niggas don't know me. And come to find out that he had told the whole underworld that they had to see me dance because I was that next thing, and I wasn't delivering, basically. I was failing epically. Let's just say, you go to a job interview. And so without knowing that he had told this whole underworld, and they were there in the club waiting. And all I know is that he gives me this joint. He says, smoke on this, relax. And he shoves me in this circle that they had like in the top back. It was the back, because the front was more catered to all the LGBTQ, Let me explain that. When you went to the front of that, you had to be ready, bro, because there was some real shit going on there. They were carrying on. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, that wasn't for everybody. But in the back, that's where all the straight people would hang out, or the people that would act like they were gay, they would hang out there just to mingle in. And there was a cipher there next to the speaker. 8 people could fit in a fucking speaker, in a low-end speaker. Okay, so we would crawl in there, smoke our weed, do our shit, and then there would be the cipher right next to the speaker or next to the vent, like I told you, that vent that you would get this gust of air from the sound system. And he shoves me in there and he grabs me. He's like, come on, bro. These motherfuckers is getting impatient. You know, I told them so much about you. So then eventually Larry fucking, I don't know what he told Larry or whatever it was, but it just so happens Larry throws on this fucking song and I just lose it, bro. I just fucking start going in. And all I know is that the minute I did that, I got this love and admiration, like, yeah, that's that motherfucker. And people are just slapping me and hugging me, and yeah, you that motherfucker. And I'm like, okay, not understanding what the fuck is going on, still a little nervous because it's like, yo, who these people, like they touching me now. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck is going on? Like, we in a gay club, nigga. I don't do that. You know what I'm saying? I'm going through all these emotions and shit. And, again, I'm tripping balls, I'm like, what the fuck? And then Perry comes to me and he's like, yo, don't worry. You good, my nigga. You good. Like, you did the damn thing. Thank you. He goes, it's a wrap now. Because I guess he felt he was carrying that torch for a long, long time. And it was hit, you hit these thresholds without realizing, like, everything's monopolized now. You got young basketball players, young footballs, young soccer players, they're teenagers, and it's around the same age I was when I see what's going on now, So it's like, at that point, there was no rules and regulations to this shit. We didn't know who's going to be that next thing, that next underground dancer. It's something that we all have within ourselves, but you can tell when you see a dancer when they have that thing, especially coming from the club Nightlife. And he felt it was me, and all I know is for me is that I always loved dancing. I put my heart and soul into it. And I sacrificed a lot to become this dancer and know every nook and cranny about it. So for me, years later, now I say I am the gatekeeper of New York City's nightlife, representing all styles of the club and nightlife and dance scene, because I was fortunate to know all the pioneers, and my father and my mother, first generation, so I didn't tell these people. Some of them knew my parents, really my father, and some knew my mom's too. But
who are your parents? Tell people who your parents were.
My mother was Julia Rochester, and my father Conrad Rochester. Julia Nieves actually. But my parents were very, very young in the game, and they had me young. So this whole kids having kids, they were the epitome of that. My mom's was 15, 16 years old when she had me. And, my father being a little older at that time, she had me when she was real young. They had me when I was young, and they used to party, man. They partied hard. So I was exposed to a lot of the jams in the parks, Hector Lavoe, Tito Puente, Celia Cruz, you name it, Frankie Crocker, all of that, WBLS and Hot 98.7 Kids, they used to come to the hood, So at that point, my other pioneers, Fat Ed, Apache, these were guys that, were pioneers in the street culture, gang culture. I rock with a crew called Hell Hill Boys, and we raised hell on a lot of people. You couldn't come into the Lower East Side, and, you had gangs like Allen Boys, and there was a bunch of other motorcycle gangs, and the Dynamite Brothers. These were all gangs that were really serious and notorious. They wrote books, did movies and documentaries, but we're the only ones that our crew was a force to be reckoned with. We raised hell, Never Ran, Never Will was something that all these gangs that I mentioned, and there's many more, they knew who the fuck we robbed these dudes. We robbed their fucking their drug spots, to whatever it was. You know what I'm saying? We had a bad reputation, nothing to be proud about. You know, I was a young Hell Hill boy at the time, but this whole culture was the reason why I got into what I got into when we talking clubs. So it showed me a lot, you know. I seen a lot of fucked up shit. So going to clubs was that haven, you know, to get out, because sometimes just hanging out too much in the street or doing certain shit. I had friends that they were dropping, man. I know what it is to lose 10 to 15 friends in one shot. You know what I'm saying? Within a week span, you know, and then when you had different pandemics, since we're in a pandemic, like HIV and, you know, all these fucking flus and shit like that, wiping people out, I've lost friends. I've lost 20 to 30 friends when HIV came out and you couldn't touch this or you couldn't smoke behind that. And people didn't know, you know, and now, you know, thank God we've come a long way. And HIV now, you know, they can have families now. They got places where they can go and eat and chill and not be segregated. Whereas like now Corona has become the new HIV, you know, but it was a beautiful time, man. It was an amazing time, you know, and I got to hang with a lot of beautiful people, you know, like Keith Haring, Madonna, you know, Bill Cosby, Yoko Ono, John Lennon, you know, Kenny Sharp, David Chong. Like, I got to meet a lot of people, and we became personal friends. And, you know, I still keep in contact with a lot of people today. And, you know, it's been a hell of a ride in the sense. And, you know, now my artistry has taken me to where I can teach globally all over the world. I'm living what I've dreamed, what I love to do, which is dance and teach the culture. You know, I'm actually going to be a part of this event called Sambanismo. It's for the month of February. My brother DJ G from Sao Paulo, Brazil, he does that. And, you know, I also am a part of doing this party called Love and Respect. You know, God rest his soul, Carlos Sanchez. In the very beginning, I was helping him, but Shamia Hall asked me to, you know, help him and be a part of this party. So we did one January 16th on Sunday during the storm, and it actually worked out. But the next one is February 26th. So we have Mikael, we have MKL, we have Herb Martin, Ania Sterling, John Martin, and Shamia Hall. And it's at Jupiter Disco. It's a free party, you know, and I just started doing this again after years of just, I had to take a hiatus and just take a chill. Um, and, you know, focus on realities. I have a daughter, you know, embracing grandpa because I have like 8 grandchildren. And it's been amazing, you know, and the beautiful wife dealing with my shit and having the patience. And you know, I just been working on this house and learning about myself and adjusting to these realities that we're in, you know. The nightlife here though in New York City hasn't died. It's changed, like I was telling you before. And what I mean by what it's done is that a lot of the essence of the New Yorkers that made what New York what it was is done. You know, as far as me not going out, right? And we're living in pandemic. And then I went out and I did this party, not knowing what to expect. It was amazing to see that nothing has changed. With all the craziness that I told you, this young generation of New Yorkers, they're wild in the sense that, you know, to see people just swap spit and just be up on top of each other in this day and age with what's going on was very crazy. It's the norm if you're a New Yorker and you know that, because when you go out, you know, it's part of the nightlife. But the circumstances that we're in now, it was just like, holy shit, y'all motherfuckers still do that? Like, and it was very casual and it was very integrated, like 4 couples, all just girls on girls, guys on guys. I was just like, yo, really? Okay now. You know, so on that aspect, it was amazing to see, because not knowing and, you know, being a historian and people ask me, yo, what's up with New York City's nightlife? You know, with everything that's going on, ain't nothing motherfucking changed. It's just gotten more looser in the sense, you know, because these people are tired of this whole bullshit with Corona, and they just want to be free. They want to connect. There's this sense of lost love and connection. And that's why I saw it the way I saw it. You know what I'm saying? That's really what it comes down to. And a lot of people call me because a lot of dancers are like, yo, man, is it me, Conrad? But I feel there's this disconnect. I said, well, what you're feeling is Earth telling you and screaming out. It needs this connection. You understand? There's a lost connection of spirituality, of just the love. People are all standoffish. There's a divide of, you know, unfortunately, this Corona, the way it's been pushed, it's become the new racism. You know, it's been this whole, if you're not part of this bubble or that bubble or see things this way or that way, fuck you. You know, I could give a fuck if you're poor. I could give a fuck if you need food. I ain't doing this or that for you, you know, because are you vaccinated or you're not vaccinated or your fucking opinion? And it's just whack, man. You know, we're human beings first, you know, and the bottom line is that human beings need to connect. And dancing and the music has brought us that. And like I said, it was a haven where we could escape our madness, our everyday lives. If it was personal or non-personal or work-related issues, whatever it was. And we can't do that. We're being controlled. The bigger picture is that people need to pay attention. They want to just rule us. And they figured out how to monopolize this next generation. They figured out how to control them, take the freedom of speech and all this shit and their freedom away. And that's what this is about. You know, and for me, if we don't take a stand, I have kids and grandkids. That means my grandkids don't have a freedom of speech. That means my daughter ain't gonna have a freedom of her own speech. She's gonna be controlled, and this shit needs to stop. You know, because at the end of the day, we're human beings first, man. You know, and that's, you know, what I see now. Yeah, there's opportunity. There's more opportunities, like you said. Everybody's leaving their jobs. Motherfuckers woke up. They finally said, okay, enough of this bullshit. They're really trying to get us, whatever it is. The bottom line is they're trying to get us because when you created this, you didn't know what the fuck you was doing. And if you did, it was beyond your means. It's way past your money. You know what I'm saying? You had money to do it, but you didn't know the lengths of the money of what's going to cost you. And now you paying the piper behind it for putting money into this shit. And it's affected everyone globally. The hypocrisy is the bullshit of the mandate. And, you know, with that being said, now we're just filtering all this shit. These are all mixed emotions. Now, supposedly the mandates are being taken off, but there's agencies, the police department, you know, the FBI, they got agencies out this bitch, bro. It's like hustling drugs, so to speak, where they're being forced and pressured to follow these protocols, even though the Supreme Courts have lifted these mandates. So it's a backward ass system, you know, and this is all by design, but you got to roll with all this shit until everybody filters their emotions and puts their ego in their fucking pocket, you know? And that's pretty much it.
Let's go back to the Loft. Tell people what David Mancuso was like as a person, as a human.
You know, he was a great thinker. He was a great person. He was a human being, and, you know, he opened his house, he opened his doors, man, to you. He didn't care who you was, what was you into, what was your your nationalities, whatever. You know, he was a type of person that, you know, he was easygoing, he was an approachable man. He was heavily into his politics. And, you know, I could understand why. You know, you're a creative something, you want to know what's going on with the nightlife. Motherfuckers, you know, you created that lane. And you know, I tried my best to do certain things, and because there was loopholes in it. And with him, he was very knowledgeable. He was a very smart, articulate person. He loved music. His ideas were about taking the melodies and the rhythms and letting it hit your body and absorb that and travel. And his metaphors, they were strong, man. They worked, you know, and he was dope because you could talk to him about anything. He was a very intuitive person, you know, and it was amazing. You know, it's hard because it's like in this day and age, right now, we need that, you know, and I feel that a lot of these individuals that come from what I was seeing have been taken because they refused to be around. Their souls refused to deal with what was going on, and their time was punched the minute they saw the direction. They felt that energy shift. It was a wrap. They couldn't take it, But he was an amazing individual, man. He played beautifully. There was a method to his madness, and it made sense once you reached his home. And then he fed you, the community that went to that club, they were very good cooks, man. They used to make some real good food. And it was like if your mom's was cooking, and you smelt it as you're partying, you're smelling that food and you knew, oh shit, So you knew the meal was coming. If it was soup, because they would make full course meals, man. They would do soup, they would do salads, snacks, they would bake cakes. It was crazy. Cookies, before edibles was even ever edibles. You was getting all that crazy shit up in there. You know what I'm saying? I gotta mention that because it was part of all that experience, In the garage, it was the punch. Don't drink the punch. It was the same thing in the loft, Better be careful if you drink that punch. You don't know what's in it. You're gonna be flying sooner or later, But
do you remember the first time you went to the loft? Like, tell people if you remember, like, what was that experience?
Man, yeah. The first time I went to the loft, bro, the first time I got denied, man, when they were over there on Prince Street in Soho. I went Chino 3, my boy Calito, I went with the whole Rockwell crew, and them niggas was like, come on, man, we're gonna take you. I was like fucking, I ain't gonna lie, I was younger. I was like 12 and a half. I wasn't even fucking 13 yet, bro. And I'm fucking over here hanging out, doing some dumb shit in the street. And I go out, I said, fuck it, let me go. Because at the time, my mom's had entered the Army Reserves. So, people probably wonder, how the fuck you go do all that? And your mom and pop didn't say that. Well, my mom's was in the reserves for 6 months. So there you go. You had a kid that was 12, 13 years old with all this responsibility. And I was like, you know what? It's a weekend. Let's go. So I took a chance and I went. And in doing so, I got denied. They were like, nigga, you too small. Get the fuck up out of here. So I was like, fuck. So my boys left me behind. And that was my first experience. But then after that, I was just like, yo, fuck that. I'm going to get in this club. And mind you, I already had experiences in certain clubs and stuff like that and dancing. But I kept trying and kept trying. And then a few years later, because eventually David Mancuso, because he was a wild boy too, he lost his space there. And he traveled, in certain areas in Manhattan, and in lower Manhattan. So when they reopened, he got a space more closer to my neighborhood, right by the World, actually opposite side of the World. So the World was on Houston Street, and David Mancuso, the loft spot, was on 3rd Street, right between my cousin's apartment, between B and C, Alphabet City. So, I have family there as well. And, Alphabet City is no picnic. That's a whole nother fucking hood in itself. And, and a lot of my friends, again, I hustled drugs. Those were all our spots. Those, that was like where we made a chunk of our money, and a lot of my friends made a lot of money. So, we used to go there once everything was shut down. We would go there and try to get in. And it was hard. It was the same thing. Like I went, I said, fuck it, man. I'm thinking I'm back because now you in my hood. I'm like, yeah, them niggas ain't going to deny me. I'm going to get up in here. And, unfortunately, again, I was denied. And I was like, fuck, how's this keep happening to me? Why? I live here. How you doing this? How you rocking in my hood? And I didn't take no shots. I was like, yo, fuck that. Fuck that. I ain't giving up. So, I went home, smoked some more weed, and I said, fuck that, I'm going back. I went back at like 4 or 5 in the morning. And eventually I saw some people that I knew from the club scene. They're like, yo, Conrad, what you doing out here? They're like, why you ain't inside? I said, they don't let me in. They keep kicking me out. They're like, what? Fuck out of here, for real? Come on. So I forgot who I was with that got me in, but eventually, bless you. Eventually I ended up getting in, and I paid, I believe it was $9.99. Gave them $10. They gave me the penny back. And that was the whole experience from that club. And then David popped up and he was like, yo, what you doing in here? You're too young. And I told him, I said, yo, no, I'm not. And then, I went to my ego. I said, no, I'm not. I'm a good dancer, man. I come here to dance. He was like, you come here to dance. Like, so he looked around. Louis King was there. A few cats were there. And it was someone else, though. They were like, yo, that's a badass fucking dancer. You know what I'm saying? They spoke up for me. And he was like, he's like, well, whatever you, when you come here, you can't be coming with all that riffraff shit. Because remember, he lived in the Lower East Side. So he was very aware of what the fuck was going on.
Yeah.
And he was just like, you can't come in here with all that bullshit. And I was like, no, I just come here to dance. I'm not here to sell drugs. I'm not here to do any of that. I'm just here to escape the madness, which you all, very well about. Because he knew at this point, he established himself. He knew some people from around that area that I knew. The thing is, he didn't know that we were friends. So I knew he was already doing business or he was doing something with them, so they used to look out for him there, because remember, he's a white boy, you know what I'm saying? Living in a predominantly Puerto Rican Black neighborhood and a lot of crazy shit went on. So they wouldn't fuck with him there, you know what I'm saying? But then when I got in the club and he gave me the rules and regulations and the protocols of what to do or not to do, and I showed him, I made him a believer. And then from that point on, he gave me a hug. He said, go have fun. And then he told someone, give him a membership. And that's how I got my membership card. And it was stolen eventually, as quick as I got it, the little rascal card. But, people would actually, like I tell you, man, all it took was that one time. Once I got the go ahead, I didn't need that shit anymore because of my talents and who I was and the person I was and the people I knew. Once I was introduced or got to know you, it was a wrap. I started bringing people to the club, and I worked my way up. I, like everybody else, getting denied and, taking all those lickings and whatever you want to call it, smacking the heads. And I'm going to say my grasshopper times and getting smacked around was that. Because at this point, my dancing being so young, I was already dancing with all these pioneers because of my crews. So Archie Barnett, Bravo, Willie Ninja, all the greats, Barbara Tucker, Courtney French, Brian Green. I was already in the game. I was running them streets, man. Buddha Stretch, I watched him, back when he was a papa, almost get beat up in my neighborhood because he was down with a crew and he was going up against this other crew called Scrambling Feet. And, back then, like I told you, you couldn't come into our neighborhood thinking you was nice because there was a bunch of other motherfuckers that was going to serve you. So, or you got jumped straight up. That was just the protocol in our neighborhood. We didn't give a fuck how nice you was. But at the end of the day, man, this all solidifies the connections and the cultures of our timelines. And all these beautiful experiences were dope because it made us better dancers. And then we became friends, which later on we became family, regardless of what crews or what your experiences were in the Lower East Side. It was great. It was great to be a part of it all. And the Loft, for me, most importantly, was a haven where I can really feel safe, and just be free. It wasn't about the lights. It wasn't about look at me. It wasn't about ciphers in the Loft. The Loft was, you went there to dance. You was there with the creme de la creme underground dancers, okay? And what I mean by underground was, you had cats that were first generation of hip hop that saw hip hop going already in the direction it was going so early before it was even birthed, let's just say, and were already like, fuck that. This is me. This is what I do. And they could be themselves without being judged from the whole street crew, cred, or whatever you want to say, that came with that. And then you have ballet dancers, choreo dancers that were just like, I can't be me. I'm tired of being this way. Why can't I just be this? Because back then it was, being a dancer, if you didn't do ballet or flamenco or new jazz or whatever the fuck that shit was, modern, you know, it was very hard to be accepted. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm very straight up because it's a business and they monopolize this whole culture and they want our culture, but they still to this day don't give us our credit. And for me, I have a pet peeve with that because, you know, there's a lot of budget and a lot of funding that goes into these things. And bottom line is that respect is respect. Give it where it's due. We are a pillar of, you know, underground dance, period. You know, and you can put any name on it, it's still underground. It doesn't mean that we're gonna accept what you put on that name, but give the credit where it's due, man. There's people that died, that put their heart and soul, sweat and tears, blood and everything into it, just like anyone else, just like any other form of martial art artists and everything, you know. So it goes hand in hand, you know, and it's a business, and people need to know that dancers have to get their business on point. You know, it's just not about the choreo. It's just not about being in a dance company. You know, you can also do your own urban dance company and thrive and make a business of it and do it right. You know, do it with the right people and spread that love. You know,
Tell people what is lofting.
lofting is a combination of movements in essence to the rhythms of music as a whole. Um, you basically have different movements that were coined like dolphin, the spinning top, you know, the baby powder. There was a certain look in the sense that you would put on, you know, you had dancers in there like the Maboja crew where they would like this guy named James, man, he would wear like Kung Fu slippers and he would wear these gold rings, like golden arms, like in the martial arts for the Shaw brothers. So this dude, he was a brother with dreads. He literally wore that. And them shits was heavy. And this brother be dancing, bro. Moving his arms, dancing, doing all these dope ass movements with Kung Fu slippers on and baggies. Before there was MC Hammer, you had this guy named James, bro, from the Marboja crew. And then you had these other guys called the Serial Steppers. God rest his soul. We lost him. Man, I can't remember. His name is in the tip of my tongue. He used to hang out with my father, man. But it'll come to me. Bravo knows him. He was very close with Nicky Ciano. He's a DJ as well. Damn, man, his name. But anyway, these brothers were dope and they would battle, go back and forth. Mike Dungy is also a pioneer of that. And he was part of the Serial Steppers as well. And, you know, it was amazing to see these brothers because it was just like they were on a whole different planet in the sense they represented, you know, the Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, and it was a mash pit of people where they would come to the Lower East Side, go to the Loft, and just get it in. So I was fortunate, man, to be young and see these brothers and learn and watch them. You know, that's how I met Bravo, actually. I met Bravo in the Loft. And, you know, he's looking at me because, you know, that generation, there was a generation where they were tall, very tall, upright, strong brothers, you know, and they could move, you know, they could carry their weight, you know, and I never saw that, like in that aspect of tall brothers, you know, I always saw people 5'9", 5'11". These guys were almost 6'1", you know, 6'2", 250 solid pound muscle moving, you know, and it was just like, holy shit. And, you know, Bravo was like, yo, who's this little kid? Like, what you doing in here, you whippersnapper? And I looked at him like, yo, my man, you better back. I showed him I had the Thule on me. I was like, yo, my man, you better back that shit up, bro. Who you talking to with that smack, kid? You know, at this point, I was feeling myself. I was a fearless dancer, had already a certain amount of street credibility. And I'm like, yo, you don't know me. You know what I'm saying? To be approaching me like that. But he was like, oh, you one of those, huh? Like, you know, he was like that Fred Astaire type of style dancer, you know? And I was like, I was checking him out because, you know, he had his moves and his footwork too. You know, you can't deny it. Talent is talent. Respect is respect. But then later on, as the night went on, I was like, holy shit, okay. So then I just let loose. I was just like, yo, fuck this shit. boom, I'm gonna show him who I am, you know, like boom. And he was like, oh, you one of those. Right away, he put me in the category. You one of those, you one of those. I'm looking at this nigga like, what? I'm one of what? I said, man, go ahead with that bullshit, old man. You know, like at that point, I'm already calling him old, and meanwhile, he's in the prime of his life. You know what I'm saying? So that's to let you know the arrogance I was on. And he just looked at me. He was like, He gives me this pat on the head, like, all right, whippersnapper, you know, okay, I see you, you know. So right there, I got my dips, you know, and I got my respect. And we ended up dancing and we ended up having a fucking great old time, you know, first time meeting Bravo. Then years later, you know, he's my partner. You know, he helps me do the Loft practice. And the Loft practice is just something totally different that has nothing to do with the Loft. It was more about the fact that back then, when we partied in many lofts because the spaces back then were lofts. They were big, giant rooms that we were able to turn into these magnificent spaces to do these parties. And the beauty of it all was that, you know, New York had a bunch of spaces like this in these office buildings, in these you know, special rooms and floors, underground floors. You know, that's why it was called underground clubbing, because you would go down the steps instead of going up the steps. And later on, you know, in some of these buildings, you know, you had to go up the steps, then down the steps. It was like a maze to get to this giant space. And a lot of times, Christina Visca had a lot to do with that, because she was into real estate and she was doing real estate back then. And you know, that's how I supported her by, you know, when she was doing, you know, Sound Factory and even before Sound Factory, her parties. And then later on, you know, we became friends and just we would support each other, and I would bring tons of people to her party, and I would get into her parties for free because I used to bring 20 to 30 heads. I would take people literally off the street, you know, and just be like, come on, man, you need to see this. Like it was like a kid, like giving an experience, like, hey, you really want to see New York? Let me show you New York. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna be in this party and you're gonna be around celebrities. And people used to be like, you're lying. And I'm like, okay, come on. And then it'd be like, holy shit, that's fucking Madonna, and that's such and such. And they would just like, yeah, look at that artist, look at that fashion model. And it was like, holy shit, Conrad, you the fucking man. No, I'm not, just to get the experience, you know, and just, you know, do your thing. And certain people took advantage of it, you know, and networked their careers. Other people just pissed on it. But at the end of the day, it was however you chose to go out and take advantage of the night, you would do that. And I became that. I became more of that. You know, I want to take people off the streets of New York City, especially if you lived in a poverty neighborhood and you was going through some rough shit. And the Loft was that, you know, the Loft, you know, the Loft was dope, man. You didn't need lights. It was no ego. You literally check your body at the door, you know, and just go there to be you, man. And you was around that community of people, man, that's what made it special. You know, a lot of crazy shit went on in the Loft, don't get me wrong. You know, it's just like the Paradise Garage. You know, you better watch it. You might go into a room and you're like, okay, you're gonna see some shit. The bathroom was scary for me. I hated going to the bathroom in the Loft because it was much intimate, much smaller, and a lot of crazy shit went on. You know, and it was crazy. But, you know, eventually I worked my courage to go up them damn stairs and deal with that aspect of the craziness. You know, it was all part of the experience, you know. But the Loft was special, and it still goes on today, you know.
Tell people about house dance. Two questions. What is house dance? And is there a right way to house dance?
No, there is no right way. The way is that you have your patterns. You have your 8 steps, and they're actually the same. They're just done differently. One is called, like they call it, the figure 8, and you can do it several different ways. There's an African way, and the reason why I say there's an African way is because it all stems from Africa first and foremost. When you do the history of movement, but there's certain gestures in the movement and you put your body into you're gonna recognize the movement. You know what I'm saying? And that. And then you have the whole Fred Astaire style of just the footwork aspect of the figure eight. You know what I'm saying? And then you're gonna understand that. If you dance more up top, which is more up top body before you even hit the floor, you're gonna get what I'm talking about. When we're talking more of the African style, it's more of the bend the knees, hunchback. There's no structure. And that's the thing with house dance, there is no structure. The structure is based off the movement, off the musicality of what's being played that moves you. Now, how you express yourself, we're gonna know more or less, you're doing modern, and it's a free spirit of essence of that. You're gonna do ballet, flamenco, but then you gotta break it up with the urban culture. And that's where it gets tricky, where yes, you gotta know Vogue, you gotta know how to do some B-boy, you gotta know some martial arts, you gotta know these underground locking, popping, Vogue, whack, hustle, because these are the underground cultures that paved the way for the house dance. Because before we had house dance, we had hustle, which was the first pairing, okay? And when you're talking about that, it was the first pairing where two people could dance simultaneously and become one, which is the same metaphor in house dance when you start talking about floor work. And with the lofting, that was a big, big signature dance form because not only that it was big into the floor, but you had air moves where people forgot. They always associate floor work with lofting, not necessarily. Lofting really was a combination of the whole body moving. There was levels to it, and there was a lot of sky jumping, kicks, crescent kicks, spinning kicks, all these other different dives, jackknife dives, because you had to hit the air duct bound. There was a move that you hit the deck, you jumped up in the air, hit the deck, because there was an air duct. It would make this sound that went with the whole acoustic of the room, and then you fucking jackknife down, and then to a spinning power slide or spinning top move, moving around like a circle, and then you would slide off, like a swipe. But these were signature moves when you went to the loft that also were very dynamic at that time and new, that added to the cultures of house dance where they became signature movements that people saw and associated themselves to, oh yeah, that's a loft move, or you're doing the lofty loft. But eventually it was just dancing. It was just being free, being essence of freestyle dance, really freestyle before you even called it house dance. It was freestyle, and when you was a freestyle dancer, I was that dude. I was a freestyle dancer. So crews that I represented, and I represented a lot of crews, my brother Ballantine, and Scrambling Feet and Rockwell Crew and Nonstop Rockers. These were all LES crews that represent, and a bunch of more that I'm forgetting. It was like, if we were all in the jam and we knew and battles are going on, they'd be like, yo, Conrad, go ahead, because I was a freestyle dancer. So I could do it all, in the sense. I could give you a good solid base of a freestyle. If I had to pop, I'm gonna pop, boom, boom, boom. But then I knew you couldn't do what I could do, and I'm gonna serve you now. You know what I'm saying? And that's why they'd be like, yo, get them. Because there were certain dances that were good. They could mix it up. They were versatile. So you always needed that anchor. I was that anchor for a lot of crews that I represented, and these were my boys. So you ain't making us look bad. You know what I'm saying? So that was me, and I perfected it as I went on, and the more clubs I went to, and the more I saw in these different clubs that I was exposed to the whole gay scene, then I was seeing the voguing. I wasn't voguing then, but then little by little, by like early 90s, going into the 90s, by that point, I already knew Archie and Bravo. I had developed a relationship and an understanding, and I knew Willie Ninja. Willie saw me in the club, for instance, and he was like, yo, who the fuck is that dancer? This motherfucker's bad. So he's talking to Archie and a bunch of other people that knew me, and he was like, oh, at this point, they're like, oh, that's Conrad, he's always dancing. And this is how I got part of the ninjas and being a ninja. Didn't understand it, could care less at that time. It was just about, I'm dancing, bro. And he came over to me and he was like, yo, you're gonna be the ninja in the cave. You're gonna hold the scriptures and the scrolls to the house of ninja. He goes, put out your hand. And I'm like, fuck this nigga doing? Like, I'm dancing, bro. You fucking me up right now. You know, and he's like, no, you gotta put your hands out. So he does this whole little thing, boom, 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 and you're the ninja in the cave. Didn't even give me a name. He was just like, you're the ninja in the cave, and you're the keeper of the house of ninja. And I was just like, okay, whatever. Can I go back to dancing? Boom, right? To let you know, there's a story to this shit. To think that Willie Ninja and how he thinks this happened years ago, right? Now, present time, some shit happened. You know, now we know Willie's dying and this and that, and there's like a crisis going on. You know what I'm saying? And I get a call from Archie Barnett. And, you know, it wasn't a good call. And we were catching up. And he's like, I'm done with this shit, Conrad. I can't take it no more. These fucking kids, blah, blah, blah. The house, you know, Willie, this, that. It was a lot to bear. And I told him, I said, yo, what's going on, my brother? Like, how can I help, you know, at this point? He's like, Conrad, you know what? Can you calm down? And we practice here at this, you know, we do this little practice that we do. And, you know, I'm trying to work with these kids and tell a story of Willie Ninja. It was called The East is Red. And it was a play based on his life and how Willie affected everyone and brought us together. And how he created the House of Ninja. So I said, bet, fuck it, let's do it. You know, I'll come down and do the damn thing. And as I'm thinking, I'm like, yo, Archie, how can you forget that? Do you remember when Willie stopped me and said that I was the ninja in the cave? And at first, Archie was like, no, I don't fucking remember that, Conrad. I'm fucking old now. Like, what are you talking about? Like, so you don't remember that time we were in the club? I think it was like a David Morales party or something. And we were just fucking getting it in. And he's like, holy shit. Now, you know, his jogging memory. He's like, yeah, okay, all right. It's starting to come to me, but you know. I said, well, yeah, I'm the ninja in the cave. I said, will he be rolling in his grave right now if he found out you was just gonna drop the ball like this? He goes, yo, you know what? It's time for me to step out and let these niggas know who the fuck I am. At this point, I knew everybody or a lot of the key players. So it wasn't like they didn't know who I was. So it wasn't like I had to feed them some bullshit or come up with some lies. They already knew that I had established a relationship with Willie and there was some facts to what I was saying. So I just reached out. I talked to the next generation. They introduced me. And that's how I met Javier Ninja, Oz at the time. I knew Danielle. I knew Paris. I knew a bunch of the others. Benny, you know, at the time he was the father of the house. And we did the damn thing, man. And we were able to put together, get the house in order. I was able to get the house in order with the help of everyone else's collaboration and explain my story and how I was a ninja and things of that nature. And it was beautiful to me because, you know, you never know how we're going to leave this planet. But it took something like that in order for me to understand, losing a dear friend, what he was doing and saying to me all those years later. Yeah, you're the ninja in the cage. Because at that point, I'm a fighter, which you know, and I had to deal with a lot of shit. And I'll be damned if someone's gonna take culture for their own personal gain. Knowing that person and what that dream meant to him and what he created, I will do my best to protect that investment. And you could best believe I tried my best, you know, and I feel I did my part, and that house knows it, regardless of whatever. And in my eyes, you know, I will always be a ninja because the man himself gave me that. No one could ever take that shit from me. I don't give a fuck who becomes the father or grandfather. I've already cemented my presence and essence in that. And I rep it hard, you know. I'm a straight man. I'm very sure of myself, and it adds to my culture. It adds to who I am as a person and what I bring to the table. So yes, I can vogue, I get down, and it's important to know these things, you know, because it makes us better human beings. And to appreciate dance, and vogue is part of that. So yeah, it was something that I embraced as far as everything else, you know, coming from the whole living the hip hop and being part of that, and you know, learning b-boying and hating it that because everybody was doing it at the time and it was very popular. I didn't want to do that. So I could do it, but I didn't want to do it. So I became more of a popper, and I introduced myself to the popping, and I learned that and embraced that. And then from there, it kind of, I just kept going. It snowballed into everything else. But
Didn't you do a conference back in the day?
yeah, I do something called House Dance International.
Yes, yes, yes.
And House Dance International was birthed in 2007. It was basically, it's still going on. You know, for me, I'm looking for grant writers. I'm looking for things to put that in order because it takes money to do that now in this day and age. Whereas back then I was using contacts. You know, Timmy had gave me his house, Shelter, and Freddie. And I had asked them at the time, because a lot of times I used all my contacts for that. And it was easier at the time because these people were running their own spaces. So I was able to integrate it where they benefited from it too. Um, and it was a win-win for everyone. And basically House Dance International, that's what it brings. It brings dancing, it brings classroom, it brings Q&As, it brings your pioneers from DJing to the whole club nightlife, dancing. So you're able to meet your first generation, second generation, third generation, fourth generation dancers representing New York City's nightlife in the tri-state area within the 5 boroughs, Long Island, Staten Island as well, Connecticut, you name it. And it's a 3-day festival that caters to that. And then it hosts the next generation to where it gives them a voice. And what does that mean? People that won my event have traveled with Madonna, have toured with other celebrity artists, have done things on their own ventures. They become the next face of New York City's nightlife culture. And then they enter all these other battles globally all over the world, from the Asian markets to Brazilian markets to the European markets. There is no, you know, my event is big in that way where it opens doors. And then what I do is you also learn about the DJ aspect of playing, knowing how to play specifically for a battle. So I book DJs that do both. Not only that they know how to play for battles, but they have to also learn how to play in a club setting. You know what I'm saying? So I'll hire a spinner. Like the first time I had the Martinez brothers, you know, for the first one. I hired them for my event at the time when they were with Shauna, just before they even were with Dennis Ferrer, Objectivity, and all of that. And they got down thanks to Shauna, and shout outs to Ben Johnson. And at the time also, you know, I also had something to do with putting that together with Phil Sonic and them, you know, with that whole collaboration, because that was one of the first collaborations they did, all three playing for my event with House Dance International at the time. So it opened up a lot of doors, not only for the dancing and bringing all that together, but I was able to curate this and put it together, and seeking next generation talent. That's another thing I do, you know. So yeah, it was fun, and opening these doors. And then I booked Spinner, and I had booked a bunch of other DJs as well. So, and it also gives opportunity to the future of DJs, because, you know, it's about the creme de la creme, you know, these up and comers that don't have a platform, that a lot of these resident DJs don't give, for whatever reason, time to do it. HDI was that. HDI was the pillar of giving this next generation DJs, which their careers took off because they were able to play to this next generation of dancers that ended up loving them, and then spreading out this music and what they bring to the table. So yeah, you know, HDI, House Dance International was that, you know. The dream for me was to take it on a whole global market and do EDM festivals. And I was able to do that in, I believe, 2016 or 2015, Mysteryland. I got hired to curate and they did something for me and I ended up using shuffling. So it represents all styles of the house dance movement, you know, from EDM, anything that has to do progressive, you name it, soulful, gospel, house dance international, any type of club format, it represents that to the fullest, you know.
Tell everyone about Check Your Body at the Door.
Check Your Body at the Door is a documentary. Sally Summers, Archie Barnett, Bravo. They are all Barbara Tucker, Courtney French, myself, Carlos, Irina, Asia Moon. You know, we were all the characters involved. And the beauty of that was at the time in the mid 90s or early 90s, it was representing New York City's nightlife. It was footage never being seen before in these clubs that were being done in Les Poulettes. I think one was was Will Milton's party, I believe. I didn't go to it. I was supposed to go to it, but it represented New York City's nightlife with footage of that time, in essence, of the party's nightlife, and it was about our lives. We were up and comers, and then we had the veterans, and it's actually where Barbara Tucker transcended, you know, evolved from, she stopped dancing to becoming an artist as far as a singer. You know, she used that platform at that time to cross over, solidify herself as a dancer to say, hey, now I'm gonna do this. And she was already doing it. But you know, she chose, that was it. Dancing was, she was good with it. And it was beautiful because we were all able to share the floor and be a part of that. And then, you know, you had Ejo Wilson, which she was the next generation, and myself being involved with that and part of the next generation. And it was dope, man. I was able to Ricochet, Quick, you know, these were all guys that were part of this also, that were characters in this whole documentary. And they were the next generation at the time. You know, thank God, you know, God rest his soul, Chris, Kung Fu Chris, Willie Ninja, Marjorie Smart. These were people that at the time, you know, we were very proud of saying, you know, we're still here, you know, but they were the first ones to be lost in our communities, in our dance community, that were very close to our dance community, representing house as a whole in this industry, from producers, DJs, singers, artists, you name it. So, you know, we are the pillars now to just keep their memory, their light, their artistry going and represent them. And this documentary is that, you know, you get to see them in their prime, you get to see them do their thing, and you get to see their signature movements, you know, as far as Chris, Marjorie Smart, and who else? And Willie Ninja. So the beauty of it all is that, you know, and a lot of us are still around, we connect. We found Asia Moon. She's actually an actor now, and she's doing her thing. And because some of these people were missing, even though they were still alive. So, and we know where everyone's at. So yeah, man, it's you know, Check Your Body. It's a beautiful piece of history to have represent urban culture. And the lady that put that together was Sally Summers. She was a director of, you know, the reason why you see all these reality TV dance shows and things of that nature. At the time, she was a big face of that. She had a lot to do with that. And when she met Archie Barnett taking her class, because Archie's a certified dance instructor, she was the teacher, and he kind of bring her in. He kind of schooled her, you know, like, hey, you teach, but let me show you what it is. And he ended up taking her to the Loft, and that changed her life after that. The Loft was her first experience, and then she got to see that, and that's when she was like, I got to fight for these people. So she was the advocate for us for many, many years. And eventually she took it to the world, because she also had connections with Cinematheque in Paris and a bunch of other places. So she was on a board. She was like on the Federation, Dance Federation. So she represented New York City and spoke for us. So we had a voice. And that's how, like, Most Wanted, the Serial Steppers, Capella, you know, Yukesun, the Most Wanted, all of that. There's a connection between all of that. You know, she was the face of pushing Paris and voting certain things and things of that nature with Cinematheque at the time, when Cinematheque was around in Paris. So there was a lot of things that, you know, that because of the moves that she did, is still a snowball effect now. You know, now you're seeing more urban culture and things of that nature, but still, you know, we're not still getting the respect that's due. But, you know, as long as we're alive, we're going to keep itching forward, you know, and things of that nature. And Check Your Body was that. It was the first step to shed light to New York City's nightlife dancing.
And last question, what advice would you give to the next generation?
The next generation, learn your business. Business is important. You know, it's not about the movement. It's about those contracts. Set your goals. Know what your worth is. That's most importantly. You know, unfortunately, we live because dancers are so hungry and greedy, they cut each other's limbs off. You know your business. Don't be a shark. You know, be a shark in the right way that you know your worth and you're gonna get your money. You know, if you're gonna work with these agencies, cross your I's and your T's and be very, very clear on them contracts because it's a dog-eat-dog world. As you just heard, the NFL now has stated that they're not going to allow dancers to dance for free. This has been going on for years, not only with them. There's many organizations. They're just one of the organizations that are coming out truthfully. And I'm going to keep it real. I worked with the organization for Super Bowl 54. I was able to get down and do it with the Shakira and J-Lo, and I found out a lot of valuable information. So for me, you know, to hear that, because that was a topic of conversation when I did it in 2019, and they had asked me because they kind of found out about Small Worlds. They found out about my background, but they asked me, "Yo, what do you think?" And I said, "Well, it's a travesty. It's a disrespect." And I let them know that, and they were cool. You know, they were like, "Oh, okay, hey, maybe things will change." And I was like, "I hope so," because, you know, these kids put a lot of heart and soul, and just having an opportunity and a platform, even though, you know, come to find out, you know, when you do those events, you don't get paid, bro. You don't get paid. You don't get paid for that. So I realized that too. You know, J-Lo and Shakira, they don't get paid. That shit is just like, hey, you doing it. If you do it, you do it. If you don't, you don't. But it's a platform that it's broadcast nationally. You understand? Worldwide. So that's the payback. And to me, that's bullshit. There's a lot of money that the fucking NFL is making, and I get it. Come on, man, create a budget. You could do something, do better, you know, and that's across the board, you know. So it was very enlightening to work, and I was able to. I did the sound for the stadium for Shakira and J-Lo. So for me, yeah, man, know your business, get your stuff in order, have a plan, stick to it. When someone tells you no, you keep going. Don't take that shit. Go somewhere else. Just keep pushing. Keep pushing. If they tell you no, it's because you gotta work. You gotta figure it out. You gotta change something and put something in, take something out until you get it right. Until the person says okay, and you know, be respectful, be humble, put your ego and check your body out that door for real, because that's what's killing. That's what's killing us in the sense of the ignorance. You know, stay humble, man, and also give respect to where it's due. If you was taught, I don't care who taught you, but pay homage to that person. Give the respect. There's no shame in it, and that's what I mean mostly with the ego. You know, don't just because you win events or you're bad now, dude. It's a small world. It comes back full circle. You know what I'm saying? Pay your dues. Know your history. Know your history. You know where that came from. Know where you got it from. You know, and give the respect to where it's due. That's it. You know, that's what it's about. You know, most importantly. You know.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you for doing this interview. I appreciate having the conversation.
Likewise,
All
brother.
right. All right. Take care, man. All right. Peace.